Sorry. Good morning, Ways and Means.
Good morning.
We are here. We have a day ahead of us. I have an agenda under this pile of things somewhere. And we are going to start with an amendment that I am bringing to all of you on page 397. Since 397 left our committee, it is in appropriations right now, but in consultation with the chair of the Natural Resources Committee, it has come to my attention that this section would need some attention from them. And so given all of that, I am suggesting that we remove this section and it can be attended to somewhere else some other time. So Tucker, can you tell us about the section that I am proposing?
Absolutely. Good morning. For the record, Tucker Anderson, Legislative Counsel. Representative Kornheiser's amendment removes the first instance of amendment from the Ways and Means report. This was the amendment to 20 VSA section 51. It was the section about the voluntary buyout program. It struck the requirement that the properties that are acquired through the program be held in perpetuity as open space. And if you recall, replaced it with discretionary authority to redevelop those properties for purposes of building flood resilient housing. So Representative Kornheiser's amendment would get rid of that from the Ways report and then renumber all the other instances of amendment to be numerically correct.
Before you go, Representative Maslin, I just want to say that Representative Higley was right yesterday.
Oh, sorry. Say again. I'm sorry.
I would say you were correct yesterday when you said, are we stepping a little too? And we were stepping a little too. And so I am. Bringing us back. Yes, Representative Maslin.
Yeah, we have an understanding of what natural resources will do. Out of our really work too.
We don't, they're gonna just dive into what it would look like if we were to sometimes build in floodplains,
Okay.
what language would need to be attached to that type of building. And that's something that takes more than 30 seconds to figure out.
Thank you very much.
And maybe a few attorneys, not just one. So Tucker, you are amazing. Representative Felton.
So we are just striking the change that Teddy made and leaving what was there before?
Thanks, Tucker.
Thank you all.
Thank you for being so responsive on this. Anyone want to say anything else before we do a straw poll?
I just thank y'all for your support yesterday, and I talked to the chair of natural resources, and we'll keep diving into this issue. It's a very specific thing, and so we'll work on it in the other chamber and go.
Representative Maslin?
Yeah, thank you, Teddy, for introducing us to downtown Barry. Yes,
Anytime.
that was fun.
Okay, all those in favor of this amendment?
We're taking a straw poll.
Representative Feltes, would you like to join us in the straw poll?
I'm sorry.
Anyone opposed?
Representative Maslin, are you?
So I
believe the straw poll is 11-0-0.
Does that match everyone else's experience of their hands? Great, okay. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your help with that. Saoirse, can you let the Appropriations Committee know?
I did.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we are going to return our attention to the yield bill. As folks know, we are voting on this tomorrow, our high water. And thought it would be nice. We sort of have, it seems to me that we've narrowed ourselves to two scenarios for FY26. And we're going to do a lot of work over the next couple of weeks to make FY27 and beyond a very different picture. But this week, we were just on FY26, which is I feel, a tension-filled place to be for me personally. And so I asked John to draft two different pieces of language that reflected sort of where I thought we were narrowing our energies towards, which is essentially splitting the buy down between 2 years and having the full buy down happen this year. And so Julia can show us the outlook again if we want, but I was thinking we would just start by looking at the legislative language because that's what we're voting on.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'm Greg, Office of Legislative Counsel. I will screen share. Thus far, I love this bill because it's really just me showing you language that I don't have to talk about. So it's been pretty great. Perfect. So the first draft we're going to see here, 2.1. This is establishing a reserve. So this is creating a half buy down in the first year using that 77 billion. These are the figures that you're going to see for your yields. Property dollar equivalent yield of 8,408. Income yield of 11,869. And then your non-homestead rate of 1.742. And the distinctive thing that you're going to see between these two drafts is this section 2. So this is the creation of reserve within that ed fund. This would hold half of that figure. So you would use half of that to buy down rates in fiscal year 26, and then you'd use half for the following fiscal year. So that's the establishment of the ed fund reserve. And this is consistent with the approach that the legislature has taken in the past to create reserves in similar situations. So same concept. This has been done before, just with updated figures for the numbers that you have today.
Can you show us the other one now?
Yes.
Great.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
if you want to see, there is a third section
Oh, thank you.
here. I don't think we have to spend a lot of time on this, but this is a technical correction. So last year, the statewide adjustment was included to address the effects of the CLA on the yield. When that concept was introduced, the statewide adjustment, we had to make a number of changes throughout the green books to incorporate address its effects in each instance. This is a technical correction to pick up one instance where the statewide adjustment was not included. And I can briefly explain substantively what the effect is, but here we're talking about equalized value of the house site. And why this matters is it plugs into your property tax credit. So if you didn't make an adjustment to account for the statewide adjustment, it could artificially expand the property tax credit with no deliberation behind that. That would just be an unintentional accidental effect of not catching that technical correction. So that's what this provision does. And I can read you the sentence, but I don't think it's going to mean much to people. It's really a mathematical function. What I would say about the way the math works here, this exact language is the way that we have referenced and accounted for the same effect last year. So this is just truly a technical correction to make the same updates we made last year in a place that we missed it last year.
Does anyone have any questions about this sentence, and would anyone like to hear from the tax department or Julia about it?
Aside from the fact that I don't like it.
You don't like the language or the whole
The
idea?
concept.
Okay, yeah, okay.
And I'm very glad for that offer to be extended to the people who will know better than me. But what I would also say is if you do have questions, this is something I'm less familiar with, but I'm very happy to get fully up to speed on, and I could get you answers today if you did have questions. So the other concept, I'll jump to the alternative approach. This is no reserve, just full buy down fiscal year 26. And here you can see the effects on the yields themselves. I may do a little bit of whiplash just so you can see the difference in figures. We were just talking, if you had a half buy down, your property dollar equivalent yield is 8,408. If you do the full buy down, 8,596. If you do the half buy down, you have 11,869 as your income dollar yield. And for the full, 12,172. And then your non-homestead rate, $742. If you do the half buy down, and then for a full buy down, that non-homestead is $703. And same technical correction provisions.
Yes, Representative Bodie.
I started off yesterday with 3 ideas.
And I'm really glad, I just want to say thank you, Chair, for bringing this up day after day, because I always do better after I sleep on things. And I'm going to the camp of, I think Vermonters need in these unstable times, lower property taxes. So I think we should use the full 77 to lower that.
From, I don't love using the 77 to buy down, but I think that in the spirit of working towards next year and the broader transformations around how we're going to be paying for education, I think that it makes sense for this year.
I also think it's a good way to, and John, you don't have to sit there anymore.
Great, Bill. I love this stuff.
The record reflects.
I think it's also a helpful interim way of showing the field that we are also putting skin in the game. Look at me using sporting metaphors. Yes.
Having been on the other side, it doesn't feel like skin in the game. It feels like next year we're setting them up for an even bigger attack. And relentlessly, the attack has been that spending is too great. It's going up 9%. It's going up 10%. It's going up 14%. We have to cut. But there's been no action on our part to try to move us into a universe where we have sustainable costs. And putting it on the 77 million is putting it on a credit card. We're going to have to pay the difference next year. Next year, our finances are likely to be even worse than this year. So we're setting them up for a huge debt by buying them down this year without any forethought or anything in this bill that suggests how we're moving to a more affordable universe. We haven't even tackled some of the things that we as a body have done to deprive them of the managerial discretion to manage their dollars in responsible, affordable ways that protect kids and quality. So I just think it's hugely problematic. It's putting it on a credit card. It's not doing the hard work. And people need real durable solutions right now that also anticipate the reality that our finances are getting worse, not better.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
I think your key word, Representative Holcomb, was the word how. How are we gonna get from here to there? So far, we don't have a plan.
Not anything.
Thank you.
Any further thoughts on it? Yeah.
Just, I agree with, Jen Waswick and Odie to this point that again, I think we should use, the full 77 million. Another thing I was thinking about is a way to look at it. I mean, this also includes the 18.45 million for a free and reduced lunch program, right? So you could also take out of that 77 million, if you ask me, 18 point whatever it is, to say that, okay, you found another place for it, it's general fund. I mean, it's just one way to look at that, because, you know, they were saying, find it somewhere else. Well, at least in this year, we found it in the general fund. You could say that. I mean, it's just one more example of us helping out in that regard.
The bottom line is you want the 77.
In this.
I appreciate Representative Holcomb's comment that it doesn't look like we're doing much to reduce costs at all. Well, certainly not in this particular bill. I'm wondering if we anticipate doing something the rest of the season here to do something to reduce costs that we could show for some, whether it would affect next year's budget or not immediately, I don't know, but I certainly, I feel the frustration that we haven't done anything to reduce the overall costs, and I definitely think we need to reduce the overall costs.
I don't think we're going, I'm open to suggestions for things we can do next week to reduce costs for this upcoming year. I don't, in all of the work that we've done and all the work we did in years past and all the work on the Commission on the Future of Public Education, stuff for next year feels few and far between given how budgets work. But I think all we are going to do for the rest of the session, and including voting out a bill in the next couple weeks, is do things to stabilize property taxes and reduce costs and improve opportunities for education in the next few years. So like that's our work. That's our work of this session. this is an interim piece of that to keep our pools going in the meantime. So I think we're gonna do big transformative work this year. I just think we're gonna do it next week, not this week.
Okay, so you think there will be something in the House Education Committee that will come forward that we will be able to work on, or that we will add to?
I feel comfortable promising that even, though it was a dangerous thing for a chair to do. And I think we have 4 large components of legislative work that I'm hoping we can really be finishing up next week and the week after.
I'm just not familiar with what those might be, so that's why I'm in the dark.
Okay, so is it helpful for me to refresh them?
Yes.
So, okay,
Yes.
so there's the work that we're doing to to modernize the appraisal structure to make it more consistent around the state. There's the work that we're doing to create new property tax categories. And that I think we've only looked at that once or twice, because tax has been spending some time with it. There is the foundation formula work that we were paused on that we did a lot of testimony on the first month, and we were paused on while JFO was doing a lot more analysis. And we're gonna pick back up next week. And then the 4th bucket is the work on the homestead exemption that Jake shared with us, and we did a lot of joint testimony on. That was also sort of in a TAC JFO deep dive pattern for a couple weeks, and now we're going to pick back up next week as well. And I think our brilliant friends have helped analyze some brilliant solutions to some of the challenges with that. So I think those are the 4 components we're going to work on next week.
Well, thank you for refreshing those items. I see most of those as a means of rearranging how we collect the money, organizing it in a different way, maybe making it more fair, maybe doing whatever, but not necessarily cutting the total cost.
And so what the education committee will send us is going to be work on changing how we fund pre-K, work on how we do career technical education, class sizes, school sizes, district sizes, the governor's education transformation proposal with a lot more details added to it.
Which I can see some of those items, perhaps lowering the total cost or giving some incentives to lower the total cost.
And then the pieces about, moving early college, things like that. I think those are pieces that we need to be negotiating with the state colleges and the appropriations committee to figure out how to make it work. Because our state colleges are really important. We don't want to do anything to harm them.
Right.
And I don't know if the education fund's the right place to pay for it. And I think you two, with way more experience on sort of navigating that, and Representative Feltus, I think you have a lot of experience with the state colleges, might be well situated to do that. Frankly, I live in Brattleboro, and so I've pretty much kept my hands off the state college conversation because I live in a little nexus, and so would be happy to look to other people for that. Yeah, Representative Muslim.
Got 2 subjects here. One state college, and the other is Jay talked about something yesterday. I'm happy to work with Representative Holcomb and anybody else who wants to work on those things, but starting with early college. Early college, no, it's dual enrollment is the one that's problematic. As you said, Madam Chair, we don't want to do anything to harm the state colleges. I'm a trustee, as you know, and that's very important to me. But we need to make a plan, I guess I'd call it a map on how we navigate
Yes.
the things that are in the education fund that don't really belong there. And it's going to take it's not a one-step process. It's a multi-step process to figure out how we solve that problem, just the way we did transportation did years ago with the transportation fund. There were things that didn't belong there that needed to be sorted out. So that's enough on this for right now, but that's my thinking.
Thanks, and please do that and bring it back to the committee.
Okay.
Yes.
I think the challenge I'm struggling with is the point that you made, Representative Higley, which is that we're actually not a place where policy gets made. And we're sort of like the duodenum in the body.
I
And
don't know what the word means.
The lower intestine.
The mouth, the esophagus, the stomach, the duodenum, the small intestine, the large one.
Thank you.
Learning a lot.
I'm trying to be a little more into these. But, you know, to the extent,
I don't even know how to spell
I
that.
think the thing that I'm struggling with is that some of these issues have been on the table for 3 years and have never gotten a hearing in any of the policy committees. Moreover, we haven't been requested the data to be able to evaluate how to address protecting the viability of the college system, but also making good choices that don't end up just privileging the privilege and harming the schools that a lot of kids, depend on for basic education. And so, you know, when we talk about this year, if we aren't in line this year, then we're really talking about 2 years before we have any impact that makes a difference for taxpayers. We have to start because we have that very long lead time for budgets. And if we can't even signal some of those changes now, then we're really talking 2 years out. And I feel like we've been skirting around these issues for 3 years. I don't know why this year will be any different, because I haven't seen anything yet that suggests that we're really committed to looking at strong, robust public education, but also making smart decisions about how we give people managerial discretion or manager dollars to protect those budgets.
So I think we're gonna signal and do many of those things this year in this second bill that we're gonna be working on again next week, and we've spent most of the session on. I've also, I've not been here as long as, say, Representative Higley, but I've certainly, I know when I arrived, there were issues that had been talked about for 20 years before I arrived, and then I've actually seen action on some of them while I was here. And then others that the conversation started when I got here, and I imagined something might not happen for another 5 years. It's a remarkably slow-moving and frustrating beast, this legislative process that sometimes makes me feel like I'm slamming my head against a brick wall. But I think sometimes there is the moment for change, and it feels like this year is the moment for change that we are sitting in, and I'm grateful for it, and it's hard. Very well, thank you for going to the Appropriations Committee. Anyone else have anything to add on yield bill?
No, but what are the four things, the shaking out?
Assessed value. Yes. I have a little list, because I feel like there's a fifth one that I lost somewhere in my talking. The modernizing our reappraisal process,
Yes.
property categorizations in order to have sort of more clarity on how we tax each different property. The property tax credit, moving to a homestead exemption, and the foundation formula. And then within the foundation formula are all kinds of things related to grants and categorical spending and all kinds of things like that. And then we're going to get a huge, there's a huge amount of policy that's going to be coming from other committees that will also be in the, and coming from the education committee. Those are, I think, those are the four pieces that we've been looking at as separate bills that will come together in some magical way next week. Thanks to the magic of all of you.
You're still hoping to get the yield bill out this week.
We are getting the yield bill out this week. Tomorrow, we are voting on it tomorrow.
Okay.
We have an exemption from crossover for the education transformation bill. There is no exemption from crossover for the yield bill. It needs to leave our committee tomorrow in order to be taken up in the Senate. Yes.
I just want to say, I'm grateful that we're going to have that full foundation formula and the weights. I think getting that spreadsheet from Julia yesterday reinforced to me how screwed up our weights are currently, and I look forward to being addressed.
Yeah, me too.
Ask, what's the particular piece that you said is really screwed up?
The weights,
The weight?
not weights in our current,
Oh.
not all of them, but we have
Just
some,
be more specific, because when you explain it, it's very good.
we currently weight small tuition towns as if they're struggling with the variable costs of operating small schools. which they don't have. They don't have variable costs and they don't operate small schools. But what it does is it rewards towns that operate no schools by overfunding them, even though many of them are sending all of their kids to some of the largest schools in the state. But it means other people are paying to unreasonably subsidize people for variable costs they don't have,
Thank you.
including very privileged towns.
Maybe we could carve out a little time. Maybe we don't have it right now, but to talk about what Representative Holcomb was talking about, because I'm aware of the discussion out and about, but I haven't settled on where we are.
Or we could wait till we're gonna discuss it.
When it's a good use of our time.
So when we pick back up the foundation formula, weights are applied very differently in a foundation formula than they are under our current variable based structure. And so that would be a great opportunity to discuss the weights again. And I think we've already taken some testimony on that. We would take testimony on that again. Great. And if anyone wants to, in the interim, revisit some great testimony on it, we had sort of that day of national experts on foundation formulas and weights that are all stacked, and I sent them to some outside people. So I have it all as a nice tidy list if anyone wants me to forward them that nice tidy list. Okay, we're gonna take a quick break from the yield bill conversation. And
You know, Katie till 10.
10. Yeah. Okay, and then we will be back here at 10. Thank you.